In this video, we're going to look at one of my favorite ways of tracking down conversion problems when you don't know where they are. Usually best to use this approach if you have a bit of a clue on what's going on. But we're going to be talking about heat maps and specifically Microsoft Clarity. There's a bunch of different heat map tools that you can use, but Clarity is free and it does 95% of the stuff that the other platforms do. So I'll take you around the interface super quickly. I don't want to get too deep because it's a little bit dry. We'll have a look at how to use the heat maps and like the main signals to look for. And then I'm going to take you through an actual use case where I was investigating a potential problem for one of my real clients. And yeah, it should be fun. So stay tuned and let's get into it. Okay, so this is Microsoft Clarity. Just before I get into it, if you don't have Clarity installed on your store, it's pretty easy to get started. All you really need to do, this is my dev console for my development store in Shopify. All you really need to do is search for Microsoft Clarity. And then when it comes up, that'll kick you over onto this landing page. You can install it, and that's pretty much the end of the story. Once upon a time, you had to go and install a script and do it kind of more of a manual way, and there was a bit of back and forth. But these days, you can just install a plugin, assuming that you use Shopify. If you don't, then you're stuck doing it the manual way. Okay, here's a quick overview of the dashboard UI and what I usually do to change the UI when I jump in here. So depending on how much traffic your site receives, it's usually better to get a bigger sample size. So I'll change this filter to 30 days. That will give us a little bit more information. We're looking at one of my apparel clients at the moment, and they give you a good overview of some of the key metrics up here. This stuff is all good if you're investigating issues where you're not really sure what you're looking for. We're going to be focused more on heat maps today, so I'm just going to do a quick overview of this stuff. The first panel is a pretty self-explanatory, bit of an overview of who's viewing the site. Some stuff around rage clicks, dead clicks, excessive scrolling. These can be signals that there's something wrong with your site. They can also be false positives because Clarity does that quite a bit. There's a lot of smart events that are tracked on the site, which again are a good way to figure out what's going on and investigate problems. If you're not sure what's going on and you don't really have a thread to start with, this can be a good spot to start. Funnels, I'm not going to talk about this right now, but what you can do is go through and build a set of steps like add to cart, checkout, post-purchase, and then Clarity it'll show you the breakdown between how people are transitioning between those steps in the funnel, which is super useful. I haven't done it for Masterware, but I pretty much set up funnels for every new account that I work on. Stuff down here is not super relevant. Referrer is good. This is a breakdown of stuff like referrer, channel, source, which is really helpful if you're looking for conversion issues and you're unsure like whether meta traffic is converting better or worse than other sources. I use this a lot. We're not going to look at it too deeply today. Browsers, devices, operating systems, and regions can be another really good one. Performance overview, I pretty much ignore this panel because I don't think Clarity is the best spot to get this information. If I was looking to like figure out whether a website was properly optimized, then I'd go to Google Page Insights or something like that, Lighthouse. Top pages, this is a little bit more relevant. This is one that you'll end up using quite a lot, especially if you don't have as much traffic as these guys do. You'll find yourself gravitating more towards the home page or your like most popular collection page or product page, just because there's a lot of traffic that goes to those pages, and heat maps really only work when you have a lot of data. So with that being said, we're actually going to look at the collection men shop all page. So I'll open this heat map up, and at the same time I'll show you what the page looks like and explain what my theory is. So this is the page here. It shows all of the men's products for Masterware. They have some really great products, and we've done a lot of work to this store to make it look good and get it optimized properly. One thing that I'm uncertain about is whether the order of the products showing up at the moment is the optimal order. So what I mean by that is, are the most people looking for fireside fleece pants, especially at this time of year? We've got some like more complicated software running on the platform called Nosto that helps us with some of these personalization and higher order decisions. But I want to figure out whether I should configure Nosto and these products to appear in a different order. So what I'm looking for specifically is, and most of the people coming into this store are browsing on mobile. So what I'm looking for is there a spot on the page where lots of attention is being given to a particular product, and how far down the page is that product, and like how many people have bounced by the time they get to that product. Oops. So if I come back here, so what you'll see when you click on the heat map button in Clarity is something like this. If you just click on heat maps without first picking a page like I did here, then I think it'll take you to the home page, and you'll have to come in and hit this filters button and then pick a URL. So this is one part of Clarity that I don't find super intuitive, but they set the time filters, location filters, user actions, all this stuff that you don't really need to apply. And then it comes down to here, to path. And path is really the big one, because this is telling Clarity which page you want to look at. So if you pick one of the filter options from the front page, it'll put this regex in, or regular expression, that stands for. It's just a way of telling Clarity, like a way of filtering out the URLs and using parameters and stuff to put this particular page in. I think you can also just go into here and type like contains or is exactly this path if you need to figure out a way to get your page to show. But anyway, I've got the page showing. By default, we're going to look at the click map. And this shows like where people are clicking more frequently. I'm actually going to jump into mobile, because these guys have the majority of traffic coming on mobile, which is pretty much the same for every apparel store. So this view is going to be way more relevant, just because way more people view the site in this perspective. So the top fold is just full of clicks, and that makes sense. People are clicking on the first product, they're clicking on filters, they're clicking on all of the interactive elements at the top of the page. They want to go back using the breadcrumbs. And as we go down, the pattern remains pretty similar. People are clicking on all of the stuff I would expect them to. There's nothing really jumping out at me, but that's because this is the wrong view to be looking at the heat map in. And this is one of the things that I think a lot of people get stuck on. Heat maps aren't just for looking at clicks. It can be really useful if people are clicking on stuff that they shouldn't be, but I personally find scroll and attention a little bit more relevant. So we'll have a look at scroll. This one's always a bit of an eye-opener. If you haven't looked at your scroll map on your money page before, then go and do it, because you'll see how many customers you lose by the time you get usually one or two folds down the page. Now, this collection page is pretty well optimized. We get people engaged really early, and the drop-off it's pretty linear, and there's nothing too crazy happening. So still a decent number of people going down. So even at the bottom of the page, 5% of users. So that's pretty healthy. I've seen plenty of websites where you lose more than 50% of people by the time you get down to the first fold. Attention is pretty much the same as the scroll map, except it gives you more of an adjustment for where people are spending their time. So let's see if there's anything down here. So what I'm looking for at the moment is to see if there's any signs. Yeah, this is kind of what I'm looking for. So I'm looking to see if there are any signs that users are engaging with a particular product because they're looking for that product, and it's not up the top of the page. So I would kind of expect the pattern here to be quite linear, pretty much like the scroll map. People aren't spending too much time on this stuff. Like, they might find something that they like, they'll engage with it a little bit. What we found down here, and it may be a false positive because this does look like a lot of attention. It could be like something to do with how the page is broken up. It could be pagination or something like that. But it looks like Escape Pant and Power Hoodie, which I know are two of Marshware's flagship products, are getting a lot of attention. And realistically, they should probably be further up the page. So this is a test that I would run. There's another really hot patch here. So Prime Shorts and Pursuit LS t-shirt. That's another one that I'd probably try pushing further up the page. So that's it. That's really where my investigation finishes. I've got enough information now, enough data that I can say, looking at the heat map, it seems like there's a couple of products that should be further up the page, because if we take into account the fact that, let me just find those products again. So they were kind of down here. They were somewhere, oh, there they are. So by the time we get to Escape Pant, we've only got 24% of the users. So if this is something that a lot of people are looking for, we've already lost 75% of our audience, our potential sales. So in theory, if we can put this up the top, maybe the first or second row, then we're going to get 50% more of the visitors to actually see this product. So it's a good test to run. That's how you use these first three. Conversion conversion's a new filter. I haven't played around with this one a lot. It seems like it requires a little bit of configuration. So I'm probably going to do that this week and come back with another video. Okay, and there's one more thing I want to show you before you wrap this video up, which is a really, really common problem that you'll see all the time. It's super frustrating, which is a pop-up getting in the way of Clarity's recordings. It's a little bit easier to get around now than it was once upon a time. I'll just see if I can replicate the issue. Don't think it's going to be a problem for this site. But what you can do is, if you see the pop-up being overlaid, there's not going to be a way to get around it. You can scroll up and down the page. You can click on any of these elements and it will remain. What you need to do is change the screenshot. Give it a few seconds to render, because it'll usually render 2 frames, and then after 30 seconds, 40 seconds, it'll render the rest. If you see a frame where the pop-up isn't impacting, then you just click select. That's pretty much it. That's a good way to get around it. So this is a quick rundown on how you use heat maps. There's not too much more to it than this. There's a few buttons you can click on. There's a few controls on the dashboard where you can get a little bit fancier about viewing particular pages, but really it's a case of having enough information to go and build a hypothesis around what you think, and then just checking it against the data to see if it lines up. So hopefully you got something out of this. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.